Alright, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena and back to a historic Brawl video. Today we're going to be checking out a commander that we haven't touched since it was 60 card only for historic Brawl, which is something I think I might be doing a little bit more over the next coming weeks. I think it'll be cool to revisit some of the 60 card commanders and make them nice and 100 card and hard to describe in a deck tech video. But yeah, we're going to be playing Athreos Shroud Veiled today, one of my favourite gods from Athreos. 4 and white and black for a 4/7 with Indestructible. As long as your devotion to white and black is less than 7, devotion being the mana symbols in the top right card, or top right corner of the cards, so any permanent that's got those equals your devotion. As long as it's less than 7, it's just an enchantment, but after that it becomes a 4/7 creature that can attack. And at the beginning of your end step, you get to put a coin counter on another target creature. And for as long as Athreos is in play, whenever a creature with a coin counter on it dies or is put into exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control. So basically we can stick coin counters on end step onto our opponent's creatures and kill them and gain control of them, which is kind of cool. And we also have a couple creatures in our deck as well that have nice ETBs, so when they die they'll come back and do something wonderful. It is in kind of a mid-rangey black-white control shell. So we've got a lot of removal, a lot of sweepers in this deck as well. Considering a lot of our stuff comes back when it dies, thanks to Athreos and a couple of other cards like Kaya the Inexorable, we don't really care too much about sweeping our own board, because oftentimes we can get some value out of it that way as well. So as I mentioned, we've got a lot of removal in here. We've got like Vanishing Verses, D-Sparks, Doomblades, Grasps, Powered Kill. Lots of stuff to control the board. Sweepers, Kaya's Wrath, Wrath of God, Day of Judgment, Doomscar, plenty of ways to sweep there. And then we're honestly looking for powerful creatures then to go with Athreos. Most of the time we're going to try and just steal our opponent's creatures because they're pretty cool and we'll prefer them. But we do have a few cards in our deck that will like to be kept around, either having an ETB or a passive that's very annoying. So ETBs like Solemn Simulacrums, those help you get up to your Athreos, and then when they die you draw a card. So if you've got a coin counter on this, ETBs makes you a land. When it dies, you draw a card, it comes back, gets you a land. It's pretty cool. Basilica Bellhorn, a card we haven't seen in a very long time. It was in my previous 60 card version of this deck, so figured, you know, there's a little bit of an homage back to that deck. We'd keep this in. ETBs makes your opponent discard a card and you gain 3 life. If you can kill this at instant speed, that means that on your opponent's draw step, you can make them discard it before they get a chance to play it. So if it's sorcery speed, your opponent skips a draw step, which can be kind of cool. It's not a thing we're going to try and do very often in this deck. Mostly we're just kind of going to go for nice ETB value and control the board. Chupacabra destroys a creature when it ETBs. We've got also as well Gisa Glorious Resurrector. Hopefully we get to play around with this card today. 4 mana 4/4. If a creature an opponent controls would die, you exile it instead. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you put all creatures exiled with Gisa onto the battlefield under your control and they gain Decayed. So it gets exiled, but on the upkeep it comes back to the battlefield under our control as a non-token, but it has a Decayed counter on it. If we get it back with the Decayed counter on it and stick the coin counter on it with Athreos, that means we can either use the Decayed ability to have it die post-combat, or when it dies it'll just come back without that Decayed counter anyway. So it's another way for us to keep creatures around and annoy our opponent that way, which is wonderful. New cards you might not have seen before. Let's see. We've got Predatory Sludge, 3 mana 3/3 with Menace. I quite like this card, honestly. I've won plenty of game with it. As it enters the battlefield, you choose a permanent you don't control. And when the chosen permanent is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, which if it dies, it does go to the graveyard even if it comes back to our battlefield under our control. So it'll still do that. Where is it? If that happens, you get to conjure a card named Predatory Sludge into your hand. So basically an exact copy of the previous creature, more or less. So you can choose your opponent's creatures that you are planning on killing, kill them, and then get a card out of it called Predatory Sludge, which is pretty cool. Cool little interactions that I hope to show off today. We've got a few, actually. We've got repeatable removal with, like, Priest of the Haunted Edge. This one can sacrifice itself in order to give a creature -X/-X equal to the number of snowlands we control. We can only do this at sorcery speed, though, which is kind of annoying. It means that we can't just end step, get the coin counter, and sack it immediately. We have to wait for it to untap, which is sad. But if it gets to stick around, though, it's pretty degenerate removal that Athreos really appreciates. But yeah, either way, though, that's going to do it for today's Deck Tech. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you do, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. And without further ado, let's continue. This video is brought to you by the generous support of our wonderful patrons and channel members that you see here. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to cool content like sneak peeks, bonus videos, polls on future content, or access to a personal deck critique from myself every month, then hit the join button down below, or check out the Patreon link in the description. With all that said, let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty, we're in, and this hand looks functional to me. Bounty Agent can kill Muldrotha when it comes down, but I doubt we'll get the opportunity to do that. And yeah, I mean, the hand looks functional. Got some removal on 3, Agadeem on 1 here. Make sure that we hit our land drops. So our opponent's on Muldrotha. I'm sure most of you know what this card does. You can play a permanent... one of each permanent type every single turn. By Bounty Agent, I guess. Do you want my easy creature removal, or do you want to get rid of my hard removal like Murderous Rider? Yeah, Bounty Agent is gone. Alright, well that just makes Temple the best line here. Definitely put the 5-drop I can't cast to the bottom. Yeah, I don't imagine this is a good matchup. I'm getting the impression that Athreos doesn't have many of those anyway, so... It's a safe assumption to... Oh my god, Spellbomb. Are you kidding me? Alright. That's kind of a hard counter to most of my deck. Yeah, Exile or Destruction, totally fine. Consistent bounce magic, not so much. Alright, we will be getting rid of Skull Prophet here. Killing our opponent's ramp is kind of on the docket. And Murderous Rider, one of the few creatures that Spellbomb isn't terrible against. Or isn't good against, should I say. I think I will go with Evolving Wilds here, because it allows me to play Kaya next turn, and then I can tick up on Murderous Rider, so if it dies, it comes back to my hand. And if our opponent Spellbombs it in response, that's totally fine as well. Can't Spellbomb a Planeswalker. But yeah, so far this is really not good for us. Once upon a time, must have been a draw recently, because you would want to play it before these two, or these 3. Gets it Forest, Land Drops Ahoy. We'll go grab a Plains, I believe. Doesn't really matter, I don't think. Just keep the colours even. Dark Ritual. Huh. That's, So the coin counter only matters on dies or is put into exile. Unfortunately, I don't have any good ETB creatures, otherwise I might have considered Dark Ritualing out Athreos here. Instead, I think I'm just going to go with Kaya. Tick up on the Murderous Rider. Sooner I can get that Spellbomb to go away, the better. Alright, so no matter what's happening, that Murderous Rider is coming back to my hand. I need to make sure that I've got my auto-order triggers off. So I get to decide which effect takes place first. So returning it to my hand. Cool. I now have removal. Demon's Disciple gets rid of Kaya. Cool. So that's why that happened. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana I've got to play around with if I play Dark Ritual. I think I'm just going to play Geezer. And then that allows me to hold up in Ritual plus Rider. They won't really be playing Muldrotha this turn because they can't do anything with it. Crux of Fate, destroy all non-dragons. Sure. And non-permanent things like Crux of Fate, leaving is good for me. I guess I'm just going to play Athreos here. It does make the creatures coming back from Muldrotha not so great, because I get to pick them. Pick and choose. And Aether Spellbomb doesn't hit Athreos as long as he's not animated as a creature here. Looks like they're going for the Muldrotha, and then that allows them to hold up on 2 mana for maybe their Skull Prophet. Choosing not to play anything is incredibly suspicious. So that is a counterspell. And I want to fight over it. I've got 2 removal spells, so I am killing Muldrotha here. It's just, do I want to let them know I've got 2 removal spells by going with Power Word Kill first, since I want the Murderous Rider to live? I think I kind of have to. This Murderous Rider's just too good. Heroic Intervention. Alright. So then we kill Muldrotha. And now I've got the Adventure Creature. The Interventions, essentially just traded with a removal spell. And we're not looking terrible. We do need a little bit of card advantage. Redain could be pretty good for us. Let's start by playing... Murderous Rider. Resolved very quickly. So I'm going to play the Redain. I was trying to play around like... and definitely stick that on Redain. Play around like Jwari's Disruption or something, because they seem like they're playing a lot of non-permanent cards in their deck. So I was expecting counter spells to be a thing. Frogify my Redain. Sure. It still has the coin counter, so it should still come back. Cavaliering the treasure map could be pretty good for me. While our opponent's guard is down, I get to stick the coin counter on the Cavalier, which is a really good target. They're going to really feel bad that that Frogify's not sticking around. Okay. Got Ren and 7. And start making some big old tree folk. Which I can push through because a lot of my creatures are either indestructible or come back and do something disgusting. And if I went with Broodmoth here, I think that benefits me quite a fair bit. I could Cathar Commando killing the 3/3 token, but I don't need to. I can save that for later. So let's just attack him with everyone at Ren and 7 here. See what they want to do with that. So I might not need to commando the token, depending on their blocks. I don't really care too much about Murderous Rider dying here, because the Broodmoth will bring it back with flying. And Cavalier's coming back anyway. Right, so... this is for the Cavalier. Yeah, this is the correct order, I think. So I can turn the 6/6 into a 3/3. Murderous Rider comes back with flying. And yeah, we're pretty happy here. We're going to put a coin counter on... I want to say Brood Moth because if the Cavalier dies, it's coming back because of Brood Moth anyway. Tender Shoot Dryad. That is a card I would like. Our opponent's not prepared to give us it, though. Alright, that felt pretty good there. Certainly got ahead of our opponent in terms of our value engine. Once Muldrotha's out of the picture, the game gets a whole lot easier, because basically they can just keep replaying spell bombs to bounce my creatures for artifacts. They can play Ren and 7 and minus it to Oblivion for Tree Folk. They can get their ramp spells back. They can make me sacrifice a creature every turn, which in my case isn't the worst thing in the world anyway. If I can bring back my good creatures like Redain and stuff like that. But yeah, just having that double protection of both Athreos coin counters and Broodmoth to reanimate my creatures when they die just gives me a whole lot of protection versus sweepers and single target removal, which is really nice there. So yeah, sweet. On to the next one. Ah, a Karuga matchup. I feel like this is a first for the channel. Maybe not. I don't know. I've done Karuga as a companion in a Brawl deck before, but I don't think I've ever seen one played against me as a commander. This hand is, I think, functional. Just based off the fact that we've just got some early game ramp here, and our opponent's probably got jam-packed full of 3 mana value cards in their deck, so I think it's safe to assume that we've got a little bit of time. Would be nice to kill the mana dork there, but can't always get what you want. Let's go with the Guardian Idol here, since it comes into play tapped. Four mana for our opponent. And Midnight Clock. That is 1 trigger for Karuga so far. Wonder what their game plan is. When I built it, I had Karuga... this one I think was before companions had to pay 3 to go into your hand as well. I think I had mine as a as a mill deck. So the idea was I got one of those whenever you draw you mill a card kind of effects. Let's play the Alseid here. And rude. I guess that's the game plan we're playing. Yeah, whenever you draw a card, you mill X cards kind of thing. So I've got lots of mana rocks and things like that. And then you have Karuga enter, draw you a million cards, and then good stuff happens from there. Alright, our opponent's got a lot of mana. A lot of mana. I do want to kill the Llanowar Visionary here, because that's 1 extra draw for Karuga. I guess it would be nice to keep them off of that, and I won't be too far off playing Meteor Golem anyway. Although, that being said, now that our opponent's guard is down, maybe it's time for me to play Athreos. Let's get a double black anyway. I think it's probably a good time to play Athreos. Bounce spells are the only thing that I'm going to have to concern myself with. I get this coin counter. So I can, like, Chupacabra, the Visionary, have it ETB on my side, Wrath of God next turn, maybe, after I've put the Chupacabra counter on it. Growing Rites, I think, needs 4 creatures in play. Yeah, 4 creatures. Opponents drop their guard again, essentially. So I guess I could do Meteor Golem, hit the Midnight Clock, put a counter on, like, Karuga. I guess you can't put it on Karuga, because they can put it back into the command zone. I think that's how that works. I suppose I do really want to hit one of the creatures, though, because of Growing Rights. I want to keep them away from that. And getting the card draw off the Visionary here would be nice. So that dies, comes under my control. I draw a card. It's more lands. I'll put the counter on... I want to say the Visionary, honestly. Keep that under my control. Got the Scoot Swarm here. Okay, draws 2. Oh no, wait. A Greatest Power, sorry. That was it, number of creatures. Let's draw 5. What a weird and wonderful deck. I like it. So, Scoot Swarm. Plays a land, gets a Scoot. We're gonna Wrath of God, get back our Llanowar Visionary. Although, if they attacked in, maybe I change my mind and take the 5, so I have a Visionary post Wrath of God. But it's got stuff they can do. They can adapt the Incubation Druid. So I think I just want to... There's no baiting really here. So I think I just want to Wrath of God, get that Itlamok doing nothing, get the Visionary that draws me a card, hopefully gets me something nice. Monocolored permanent. I think it's probably worth getting rid of the Midnight Clock. Before that resets their hand down the line, and play a tap land here. Unfortunately, I've only got colourless lands to show. Maybe I could have manually tapped myself to make that a little bit better. River's Rebuke. Rude. Back to my hand, please. So they got 1 mana to play with. Probably got a land drop, right? They played a land drop yet? Oh, no, this isn't just strictly Gaia's Cradle. It also adds 1 green mana. It's not a dead card without nonsense in play. Declaration in Stone. Alright, so how many things can I put into play and still play Athreos? I think it's just 1. So we'll do that. We'll get the Lotus Cobra pinged there. Opponent goes for the Visionary. I'd love another Wrath, honestly. Brazen Borrower. Annoying. I can deck in Stone and Guardian Idol plus Athreos, though, I think. Ugh. That goes and gets Crater Hoof, I guess. Seems like this is generally their game plan, which is big mana into Crater Hoof. I don't think you really include Fierce Empath and Crater Hoof unless it's like your game plan most of the time. Yeah, and I mean now they win next turn unless I draw a Wrath. Which I don't. I can't take them off of Itlamok and stop them from Crater Hoofing in the process. Meteor Golem doesn't hit anything relevant, so yeah, that's game. I mean, does this equal 10 permanents? It does. So I get to see the top card, and Swords to Plowshare is the only relevant card, so yep, next game. Alrighty, we're on the play, and our opponent's got a Rashmi deck. I usually have no joy whatsoever playing against Rashmi, because it's Simic Tempo most of the time. I guess this hand can kind of function. It's not great, but it can ramp to Athreos. If we can get to Athreos and start hitting their tempo creatures, maybe there is something here for us. I'm just going to start with the Sajiri Shelter. Make sure we've got untapped lands all the way up to Key to the Archive. Hitting the Arcane Signet there is quite nice. I'd like some removal, though. Really like to hit some of their tempo cards. I'm sure most of the stuff they have has flash. Here I get to go key to the archive, though, and turn one of these potentially bad cards into something potentially great. Approach of the Second Sun. I guess that is my card of choice here. We'll get rid of Teferi's Protection. It's too early for that card to be relevant. So I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So a land drop with the Amiria's Call allows me to approach, putting that into my deck. If they don't counter the spell the next time around, which they're just shocked in, so they will, then they'd lose the game off of that. So I think I'm just going to go Castle Lochthwain. Do I want to draw a card, or do I want to answer our opponent's stuff? I only have sorcery speed removal, so if anything has flash here, then that isn't great for me. ECD doesn't hit the Green Seeker. Yeah, I guess I'll just bait some removal, some counter spells. 2 4/4s, okay. And Roiling Regrowth was their card of choice. Alright, thins the deck, makes the Green Seeker a little worse. Which is quite nice. I've got 8 power on board now, so a threat that they have to respect. Could mean that they drop their guard and allow me to resolve the approach of the Second Sun. Green Seeker hits a land. Okay. And they've basically got like Spell Pierce mana open. But I think I'm going for the approach here. You wouldn't have Spell Pierce, would you? Nope. Alright, hit you for 8. Again, this is just a threat on its own. They've got an unsummon. Gets a land draw for the turn. And gets a full untap. So I do need to respect Rashmi here. I need to try and get some counter magic out of our opponent's hands. Again, they're going to be concerning themselves with the upcoming approach. They get Uro and a free Spectral Sailor. Good hit for them. Rashmi already gaining her value. Her worth is well known. Stop eyeing up my 4/4 token. Rude. Alright, so they draw a card there. I guess I'm going for just Path of Peril here and sweeping the board. They could have negates, which would be less than ideal. Hit me for 2. Nope, okay. That's a free card for us. Love to see it. Alright, so destroy all creatures. Activate Green Seeker before it goes away. If you hit a land, I'll cry. Good. Good stuff. I think that does allow for... Yeah, that does allow for Uro to come back, but I have ECD and Declaration in Stone for it. And we're a little ways away from good old Approach of the Second Sun. So the looming threat of an I win the game card is ever present. And just past the turn. So I don't have anything for Agadim's Awakening. I could play it as a tap land, take 4 to draw here. Get that threat a little bit closer and maybe get a good card out of it as well. Okay, I'm just going to pass the turn. Got enchantment and artifact removal. And that's probably game over. Oh, good lord. Alright, well, I've got to kill a Hullbreaker Horror now, where basically every spell they cast undoes a lot of my work. So there goes Key to the Archive. You know what? I'm going to give them a reason to... Oh, wow. Only sorcery speed spells in their hand. Alright, we've got a chance. That's really good for us. Alright. So now I can ECD the Hullbreaker Horror or deck in stone it, I haven't decided, but I know they haven't got a counterspell. Okay, they can have flash creatures, but not today. I am gonna kill their... Am I gonna kill their Arcane Signet? Nah, probably not. Don't be silly.
Makes me stronger. Let me show you what was
right.
Next.
Land drop. So I want to go with, I think, Declaration in Stone, because it allows me to play Key to the Archive. Key to the Archive could get me another Approach of the Second Sun. Counterspell. I mean, that's gotta be the card I take. I'll get rid of the Cathar Commando, I suppose, at this point. Three, 6, 7. Yeah, we've got Approach plus Counterspell open. We know that they didn't have an instant speed spell before. There's an Ugin the Ineffable. So I think I'm gonna Arcane Signet. This gives me extra mana in case they draw a conditional counterspell that makes me pay. I'm going to ECD the Rashmi so they have less draws. There's a Thrix. This can't be countered, right? Spells you cast with mana value 5 or greater cost less and can't be countered. Let's see what the hit is on Rashmi first. It's a land. Who do I care about more? Well, I definitely don't care about countering. I think it's just a Rashmi. I want to keep them as far away from counterspells as possible. Wander's Enclave, they get a flash creature. If I absolutely have to, I do have the counterspell for whatever they hit here. But I think I'm just going to Ugin minus on Thrix or on Uro. It's just a shame that it's a card down. So, if I knew what this top card was, it would be much easier for me to figure out whether or not I should counter this. I think, honestly, I kind of have to. Got some more flash creatures, so being at 9 is not a safe place to be. 4 cards in the yard now, so they can't escape Uro. We got Kogla to do some fighting. Oh, that's beautiful. That couldn't have been better, I don't think. Destroy all creatures. Yeah. So we get rid of the enchantment and artifact destruction. They're basically the threat that's going to kill us. They need 9 points of damage off of this flash creature, I suppose, which can only be a 3-mana spell. And at that point, it's all about top decking that counter spell because the approach is coming next turn. I personally wouldn't scoop if I was them. I think they've got a lot to play for here. They've got a clue that they can draw a card with. So they get to see 1 card there. They've got the draw off that next turn. And then, I guess maybe if the 3-mana spell can draw a card with the Enclave, they get to see it again. They only have to find a single counter spell for the approach here, and that'll do it. Maybe they're not running counter spells. I find that highly unlikely, though, because this deck is degenerate and deserves to lose. But, yeah, I don't know. I guess we also get a Cathar Commander Reanimation, so we can take them off of a mana with a Signet there, which could become relevant. We've got a Lochthwain draw, so we could draw some answer as well, and we're taxing them with the ECD, so there's a lot going wrong for them there, but a lot going right for us. That was a fantastic game. On to the next one. Alrighty, we're in, and in what I would assume is a pretty atrocious matchup. I'm gonna keep this hand, though. So our opponent's playing Illuna, Apex of Wishes, also known as Ghidorah, King of the Cosmos. It is a deck known for essentially just playing Omniscience and going from there. So any kind of card that destroys Omniscience, Vanishing Verse, Cathar Commando, is going to be really good for us. We need to get into a position where we can do all of those things. And then up until that point, we just want to have removal. Ah, no Swamp here sucks. Yeah, we just want to have removal for any tokens they might make. So Illuna basically says 5 mana 6/6, but it will always be mutated. Compulsive Research, yeah, draw 3. Whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land permanent, and put that card onto the battlefield or into your hand. So the permanent is always just a singular Omniscience. That then allows them to play their entire hand out. So we hope to try to kill the Omniscience before they can do anything relevant with it. That's basically all we can hope for. Speaking of hoping for things, a Swamp here would be nice for Phyrexian Arena. Does that work? That works. That sparkles and shines with me. Alright. So now we're drawing 2 cards a turn. We've already got 2 answers to the Omniscience. And a Baffling End sitting around waiting for a token. They might just go for Illuna and token in the same turn to play around a lot of stuff. So we got a land drop for the turn, we got a D-Spark, another answer to the Omniscience. I don't think they're going to be able to play it this turn, so I might as well just get the Athreos down. That allows me to tap the altar to gain 1 life every turn now, so I can undo the Phyrexian Arena damage. So yeah, 3 Omniscience answers should get around like counter spells and Pact of Negations and things like that. I just need to generate the mana now to do all 3 of those things, while also presenting a threat on board that our opponent has to deal with. Ooh, Calmly Garden. Forgot that was in the game. Alright, so that is a token that Illuna can now mutate onto, so I have to get rid of that with Baffling End or something. Land drop for the turn. Sign in Blood. Draw some extra cards. So yeah, I think I'm just going to start by getting rid of the token. Opponent's going to consider in response. Maybe looking for a dive down or something. Doesn't have it. Alright, so I've got Vanishing Verse, plus Cathar Commando activate, plus D-Spark. Yeah, I think I'm just going to pass. I think from now on I hold open as many of these as I possibly can. Might just see an auto-concede from our opponent if I hit their Omniscience and they can't do anything relevant with it. So the more opportunities we give them to only be able to use Omniscience for instant speed spells, the better. I guess I can start hitting with Guardian Idol as well. Draw 2, Conceal Courtyard, another land drop for the turn. Destroy an enchantment, there's another answer to our opponent's things. Guess I'll just Sign in Blood. Okay, pass the turn. Faithless Looting. It's also possible this matchup just decks them, because it does exile until it hits Omniscience, and then everything that was exiled getting to that Omniscience is essentially just removed from the game. So if the Omniscience is right at the very bottom of their deck, then tough luck for our opponent. Okay, let's gain some life. Draw 2. Land drop for later. We got a Doomscar here. I guess I can Happily Doom Scar. Let's do that. Destroy all creatures. I don't know why they made 2 tokens. I don't think that was necessarily a good idea. They could have basically 2-for-1'd me if they wanted to. Brainstorms. So I can like Cathar Commando to get Athreos in play and attacking, but our opponent's deck should probably be full of creature removal. And I'd rather save the Cathar Commando for Omniscience. Hard Evidence. So there's a 0/3 that they can mutate onto. And I've got to ask myself, do I want to go for it now? So I've got Vanishing Verse plus Cathar Commando Activate. Or D-Spark. So I can answer it twice over, or I can just attack my opponent here with Vanishing Verse, exile in response, let them just have a Ghidorah that sticks around. They've got to basically convince me to kill it at that point, so that buys me a bit of time. But has had enough. Okay. Yeah, it's a really fun deck that our opponent's playing, but it has some real weaknesses, and creature removal, permanent removal .deck is not really what you want to be going up against. So the other bad thing about their deck is, even if they did hit the Omniscience here, these 3 cards, plus I guess the Fatalist Looting, have to be really good to win on the spot. Otherwise, they risk me just untapping and using one of my other removal spells against the Omniscience. And once you do that, it's kind of hard to see our opponent winning from that stage. I'm not sure what their win con would be for the Omniscience. Usually it's just bury them in card advantage and play every burn spell known to man, something like that. I don't know what's different about this deck since I last played it. I guess there's a body of research in here, so you could do like return this to your hand, play the body of research fling. That's one way that you could win the game. A 71 powered token flinging at your face is probably a good way to do it. And yeah, you've just got big spells like Sundering Stroke and things like that to hit your opponent. It's a pretty cool deck. Maybe we'll play it soon. I think I've played it once on the channel. I've played it once on stream at least, but maybe I need to play it again. But either way, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Overall, I think this deck is fine. I don't think it's great. I wouldn't waste any wildcards on crafting it, but if you do like Athreos like me, it's one of my favourite gods to come out of the Theros Beyond Death set, then it's definitely a fun deck to play around. The matchups seem reasonable. You can get a couple of games where the matchups just don't line up, so like Hard Control, for example, is not really good for a matchup against Athreos. You could probably just auto-scoop those kind of decks. But if it's creature-focused, then you can do a fair bit with it. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you do, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this in the future. And without further ado, gonna end it off here. Take care, and peace.